Welcome to the Embodiment Podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with embodiment specialists from around the world. I'm your host, Mark Walsh. So on the show today, we have Pawel Widuto, excuse any pronunciation, a Polish name, joining us from Norway. He's the founder of Tengu Fitness, head coach and co-founder of an innovative system called the Art of Functional Movement. Father warrior, poet, thinker, mover, absolutely badass Instagram account. So welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
It's good to be here.
So what is your journey with movement in the body? How did you get into this stuff?
Yeah, I just really don't know how to start. Really, being a fighter with a kind of deep martial arts background, I always kind of try to, it's difficult to help people hitting them in the face, right? So it's we try to develop the system that can talk to the most of the population, not just the fighters, not just people who wanted to train martial arts, and that's how I linked up with Paul Gray, and we started with both fighters actually, and he's peaceful fighter, he's doing Aikido and some of the soft martial arts as well, and we connected really with the swords. Because I'm a sword fighter as well, so and we started to actually develop the system, and that's how we are here. I mean, it took us 5 years now, and now we have a really good teaching platform that we're teaching actually movements, not exactly martial arts.
Yeah, and your martial arts background, so I've seen lots of fantastic pictures of you looking like some kind of Viking psycho with axes and swords, and it's fantastic. I highly recommend your Instagram. It inspires me every day to be a bit more Viking. So, I mean, is your background like fencing or like medieval weapondry, or what?
I actually started to fight as a Kyokushinkai fighter.
It's kind of hard style karate, right?
Hard style karate, and then I went over to kickboxing in Norway, and as we age, we kind of want to have something in the hand and move with it as a as a helping tool. And I've started to kind of move myself towards knives and sticks. And in Poland, I was a knight as well. I was doing a lot of reenactment in 14th century kind of style with a long sword and armor. And I found a group in Norway that's doing the 8th century reenactment, which is the Viking kind of fighting, and I got a lot of bruises and hits in my body for starters. But I changed my style and I started to kind of dance with them, and they actually accepted me as not a Viking, because I'm not a Viking, as a Slav warrior, which is like an Eastern Slavic. So I actually use a saber instead of a sword. I'm not using Viking sword, but the rest of it is actually 8th century fighting, which is a Western style, kind of a semi-contact, good kind of, hobbystic kind of thing. We're not going full on a face neither. So we still need a face. We still need the knees and the elbows to actually do the coaching work. So it is a hobby.
Great. So a bit of Slav. I'm married to a Slav warrior, so I'm all for that. And I know Polish saber traditions, a sort of long kind of cavalry tradition there.
Lovely weapon.
Now there's something about this work with sort of swords, it seems to be becoming popular again. There's partly a sort of reenactment, partly kind of people discovering kind of medieval martial arts, or sort of, right before and after that period. And when you look at your Instagram pictures, there's something very sort of appealing about it. The man in me goes, axes, shields, weapons. Like, what do you think's going on psychologically that civilized 21st century internet dwelling people like ourselves want to start, hitting each other with axes and swords and sticks?
Yeah, but have you asked yourself a question? Why is it happening now? Right? Is it not aligned with the awakening we're going through all? Right? I mean, we all lived before. I mean, I'm not going hocus pocus on you now, but we all have long history using weapons, right? And based on the other lives we've been living in, and I think we all kind of feel the urge to somehow, bring it back to life. I don't know. I woke up, I was like 30, and then I actually started to go into myself and see what's the point of it? What is it that makes me happy? What is it that feels right? And I started, and, I didn't give a shit really what people think, that I'm me running in the armor, swinging the sword, swinging clubs, swinging, but bottom line is, it has to be something that you can give to others as well. And that was my idea, actually, to connect the movements of the saber, to connect the movements of the sword, and actually make it something we can share with other people, not just scare them.
Yeah, so I want to get into like how you share it and what you see that brings out in people. But just to drill a little bit more into this kind of psychological side of it, there's something very primitive about this. Like I see particularly with young boys that they like to pick up sticks, and even if their parents are kind of very kind of hippie people, they will make anything into a sword, a reed, a stick, a bit of wood. Like there's something very primitive. I say, and I'm gonna be controversial and gender this, and so I see this particularly in boys that they want that. And I also think it's maybe no surprise now that as cultures become quite kind of feminized and cut off from that urge, that your kind of stuff is popular. I've spent some time in Scandinavia and Norway and Sweden, and it strikes me as a culture very much in need of getting back to its Viking roots.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the most simple explanations really why small boys taking swords, because if you're thinking about the birth and then the death, right? I mean, the youngest of us and the oldest of us actually are the closest to the source. That means that we actually have information and have a contact with the other, with our past beings, and that's why we kind of connect really easily to those kind of tools. For me, it was natural. I mean, I don't know how I know it. I just know it. If I have a sword, I know what to do with it. So that's it can be your really your blessing, or it can be a curse as well, because how to teach something that you just know, right?
Yeah, it's difficult for naturals in any art, isn't it? You see this in like football, like natural footballers don't make the best coaches, or
So you have to kind of reverse engineer it to suit the people's needs. And, I think the best way to actually make something beautiful out of it, it's actually using clubs and kettlebells and maces. That's where it's all connected.
Nice.
How you can see the movements with a proper weight, with like 10 kilos. And then you have to actually, see what's going inside the joints and how rotation is going, and you actually putting the movement apart. And it can be, sword movement, it can be saber movement, it can be club movement. It's still rotation of the shoulder, as simple as it is, really.
Yeah, what I love about either weapons or weights is they bring out some of our patterns and make them very obvious. Like when you've kind of got a 10-kilo club, or you're dealing with a long sword or a lance even, the sort of movement patterns become very clear, and you have to it's actually the videos I've seen of you move, it's actually very, very beautiful, very, very slick and smooth and relaxed, because you kind of have to be when you're swinging something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the rigid movements, they all staccato. I call it staccato. So you're actually jerking the movement, not flowing the movement. And it's, we are living actually staccato lives. We're sitting too much, and we get up and we jerk our lower back and all that. And I'm kind of trying to invite the poetry into as well. What is most beautiful than dance, right?
there's a poetic dance-like quality, and I think there's a contradiction here. Like on the one hand, we've got axes, designed for sort of chopping people into bits, and we laugh, and it's like, oh, it's like the Viking, kind of like bring me the head of my enemies kind of thing. And then, at the same time, there's this kind of fluidity and poetry to it, and there's
don't you think it's in all of us, Mark? Don't you think that the yin and yang is in all of us?
For sure. And what I see is that people often stay, particularly in the UK, particularly in the Netherlands and Scandinavia, is people are often stuck in this kind of middle place of not really yang, like full, axe murdering psycho, and not really the full yin of flow and poetry, just this slightly boring, ugly, bland kind of middle mishmash of the two.
That's where the injuries happens, really, and then both mental and physical, really, because if you're stuck in one kind of energy, it's never going to be, you're never going to progress, and you're really stuck, right? And what's going to happen when the shoulder doesn't move? Do you think that's going to work properly? No, it won't, right? So it has to flow, and it's you can easily use it in your life as well, because not being flexible in your life, it's you're going to be injured, you're going to be sick.
Yeah, and so you're teaching this to people, one-on-one classes, whatever format. Now, I imagine you're not really teaching how to throw an axe in some ways. Yes, on one level, that's what you're teaching. But what are you really teaching? What are you trying to help people with here?
What we have created is a system that is based on elements. You've probably seen some of the videos. Mm-hmm. It's a fire element, it's a water element, it's an air element, and it's earth element, right? What we've been creating past 5 years and actually applied into our, I don't call it fitness anymore, it's a health-based training. It's to give them the logical periodization throughout the week, month, and the year. So we're actually moving from one element to another, using different tools to different elements, but it gives us all trainings, they're never the same. So we always vary the stimuli, and we always vary time sets and adjust time sets and the stimuli to suit the elements, so that you're not crushing yourself with the fire element every day, as maybe other systems do. I don't know, but you actually using the aggressive feeling of fire to do the certain work, make you sweat, make you maybe mentally robust, to work on your cardiovascular condition, and then we're using the water element to actually stretch out to make you more fluent, right? So, but it's not like we're doing yoga all the time. So it is kind of logical circle in our trainings, and we don't use one tool, we actually use all of them, and rather than teaching a tool, we're teaching principles of using a tool, so you can use any tool but use it well.
And as you say, there needs to be a balance in any kind of health system, right? So like I see a lot of gym-based stuff, and they body combat, and it's full on, it's hardcore, and it almost seems like it's like becoming almost like torture, like pushing people to these incredible, I'm waiting for something to be banned by the UN, genocide, gym workout. And it just seems like it's getting more and more extreme and pushing harder, faster, more, and the music's always pumping. And then on the other end, you've got the people that always do the gentle flowing practice, and they never fucking sweat. And you
have to have it all, right? I mean, you cannot just punish yourself with the training every day and expect everything is going to be fancy. It's not. I mean, you're gonna break, and you cannot just sit and meditate and think that everything, that your stomach is going to fly out, right?
So
because you have to have it all.
So talk us through the elements. You talk about fire, that being the sort of full-on intense training. Talk us through the other elements and how they play out in training.
In fire element, you have pretty rapid intervals. I mean, it's a simple movement, and it's usually 45-15 or 20-10, or the movements are really simple, because people has to provide themselves as well with a lot of work and of volume, many reps. So it cannot be complex movements, right? So it can be like push-up, for instance, push-up, squats, swing, and a pull-up, whatever, right? And then you actually staying on a spot with the time. That means that the timing protocol is affecting your physiological, goals, right? Which in this case is, high intensity training.
Yep.
And then, of course, you can use kettlebells, you can use club bells, you can use body weight, rings, pull-ups, whatever. After this element, we usually have a water element, which is like a long time sets, and people using yoga, Pilates, stretching movements to actually calm themselves down and, to actually recover from the fire training they had the day before, right? I'm working with the yoga instructors, Pilates instructors. Paul Gray is a fantastic mover as well. So it's a lot of good exercises and the sequences we have, all together. And then we just design a workout that suits the fire needs. That means it's always specific, right? So if I crush the quads the day before, the most of the water workout is going to be designed to prolong the quads. So after a water workout, we have usually the earth workout, which is like a fundamental strength and building workout. Usually big weights, really. In my gym, I used to say that girls lift like a boys, because that's actually the case. Girls lifting really nice weights. I'm really proud of it. And the time sets in earth element is, it's usually 2-3 minutes. So you're actually working on, for instance, clean and jerk in 3 minutes, and then you go to the other exercise. It's not focused on the intensity on the earth workouts at all. People sweat, they always will, right? But it's not the main. It's not the main goal. The main goal is working on the structure and the strength. And then you have air element, like we're gonna have today. I love my Fridays, really. I'm really air person. I love air element, and air element is stability, balance, and proprioception. So it's a really complex movement. So that's how I can kind of you can call it maze flow, for example. There are a lot of people doing it nowadays. Is kind of gimmick. We using a lot of balance beams, for instance, balancing on one foot with the tool, for instance, with a mace or with a club, and the angles are really challenging. So people struggle on those classes because you have to put on the cognitive as well. I mean, you have to think. You cannot just go for air class and trash yourself with the sequence, because you're going to fall off.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be really focused on it. And that's what I think it's the main benefit of it, because you really have to be in it. You have to be, focused on every single movement. And that's what I love about it.
Great. And it sounds like a really intelligent approach to training. And, you're the first real fitness type person we've had on here. And certainly in the embodiment world, people can look down on fitness because they think kind of corporate gyms and people doing mindless cardio or mindless weightlifting, and not really realizing how sophisticated this field has become now. And it seems like most trainers that I know now who are in this field are starting to take on board the more psychological side, the emotional side. They're realizing that when someone comes to the gym for a kind of physical transformation, it's also a psychological transformation. It seems like kind of fitness has really moved on, even in the last kind of 5 years.
It's funny that you're using the word fitness.
Yeah.
I mean, you can use that, because I am, when I look at the corporate gyms and 1,000 1,000 client gyms, it is a fitness, is a production, and I really want to step back from it. I don't want to use the word fitness. To be honest, I changed the name of my gym as well. It's not Tengu Fitness; it's House of Tengu, because that's a health we do. It's not fitness anymore. But as you say, it is a big gap between something I call the spiritual sphere, and then the physical sphere. I don't know if you read about me. I'm actually educated in the shamanic school as well. So
Yeah.
I was doing I'm doing the spiritual kind of side of life as well, not just sticking into the physical one, because it's just not enough. And in my book, Journey of a Warrior Poet, I also describe the spheres. That's how I look at the human being. And you have a physical sphere, you have a mental sphere, you have an emotional sphere, and then you have a spiritual sphere. And you know what? I mean, sitting in a school, in a shamanic school, just looking around, disconnect is on the both sides. That means the people just going to the gym and not thinking about, why are we here? And then people sitting and meditating, working only on the spiritual sphere. They all need each other, to be honest. I mean,
and it does seem like at one point maybe these were more linked, the kind of warrior who was physical warrior, but there's also spiritual, or the Greek gymnasium where people were discussing philosophy. Do you know what I mean? It'd be pretty weird to see philosophy happen in the average corporate gym now. But I do see that on the one hand, the spiritual people are getting more physical and talking about embodiment more. But I also see you might not like terms, but it could be like fitness trainers or health trainers or the kind of movement culture people. We had one of those guys on. And it's like those guys are definitely seeing more like the spiritual side, the psychological side. They're interested in meditation or shamanism. It feels like even in the last few years, these things have started to come together in a new way.
Yes. And I think... not to go too far, but I think that fencing as an art, as a physical expression, it can be the answer for the spiritual guys to actually start moving, because fencing itself is really spiritual.
Yeah,
at least the way I move with the sword, I connect with the tool. It can be the answer for guys, wanting to try something physical, but doing mostly meditation and shamanism. So I think that's, if you're a man, at least that's gonna help you out.
Yeah, there's a gendered side here, and rather than be scared to talk about it, I want to just directly go into this. Like, how old were you when you went from Poland to Norway when you moved?
I was 20. I was just finished with my my education. I was actually educated.
At 28. So you
so it's 25.
I mean, there's quite a different attitude towards gender in those cultures, right? Like Poland, I've been to a load of times, and it's fairly polarized, and it's kind of like expected that men will be men. It's kind of macho sometimes, and women are okay to be feminine, and that's just kind of cool. And then Scandinavia is the opposite. It's like I hear this constant narrative like men and women are the same, and boys and girls are treated the same in schools, and there's a very different narrative around gender. And then not only have you had this big gender contrast coming, but you're doing something that could be perceived as kind of hyper macho, weapons and swords and things like that. So tell me a bit about that cultural journey.
I mean, I don't see it like that anymore in modern Poland. I mean, before it was like that, but I think the gender roles, right, changed last 20, 30 years. And yes, in Norway it was always like that. I mean, was at least since I'm here, the women really are, on the same kind of. It's not like in Poland that you have a woman that it's supposed to make you food and just stay home with the kids. The women in modern world work like men and fights like men as well, because it's a lot of girls in our Viking fighting group, and they fucking hit. I mean, can I swear here? But
of course you fucking can, no problem.
Yeah,
there was a tradition of Viking female warriors as well.
Right? It was right. And they hit, and I have big bruises on my thighs as well from the axes. I hate axes, shit. Especially when an angry woman is using it. It's just terrible. But I don't see, to be honest, I don't see the disconnect here. I mean, we in modern Poland, yes, it's polarized, but it's more like where it's a religion, and it's really xenophobic. And
Yeah,
I'm kind of, I'm sitting here in Norway, and I'm looking what's happening, and
yeah,
I'm kind of sad about it as well.
uh-huh,
I look at it as a human being, as a soul,
yeah.
not as a skin color. And me being Polish, and I see guys in Poland having strong meanings, strong opinions about things. It just makes me sad, really.
Yeah, there seems to be a kind of resurgent nationalism there, and also all across Eastern Europe, I'm seeing people basically saying no to multiculturalism, basically saying no, actually, we don't want multiculturalism here, and I think it's potentially a very healthy side to that, because I feel that Northern Europe has taken on multiculturalism without necessarily thinking about it or having appropriate boundaries. And it's like in Poland and other Eastern European countries, it maybe goes too far the opposite way, and it can become kind of like racist or xenophobic.
I think fanatism is a bad thing either way.
So how do you find like Scandinavian guys when they're kind of taking to this? I've been around some Aikido guys in Scandinavia who absolutely love weapons. It's almost like some Viking heritage kind of comes out. They really love the weapons side of Aikido. Like, it's kind of famous, the Aikido there. The school of Aikido that's most popular in Scandinavia is the school that has the most weapons work in. And I'm wondering if there's a historical kind of root in that.
I'm blessed to be in Norway, actually, having a gym filled with weapons. So you should see my 40 years birthday. Actually, we done full on like a Viking party, right? So I said, when I'm 40, I'm gonna fight. So all the groups went together, the fighting group and my House of Tengu group. We had a blast together, both with the Viking fighting, but also the duel between the Polish saber and the Japanese sword, which I actually dreamed about. And Paul is one of the best guys I know, handling the Japanese sword. He's actually he's studied under the great masters as well. So he's really right man, right go-to person. And we actually had a really nice party doing it. But you should see the faces of the guys, the Viking guys, when they came in. And it's enough to just give them sticks. Yeah. But they all wanted to kind of touch the swords and swing it and feel how does it feel like.
It's not far under the surface. So what I see in Scandinavia is often guys who have been told, look, you shouldn't be macho, you shouldn't be manly, slightly kind of feminized, very polite. But it's not far under the fucking surface, is it? That they grab the swords.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, you have to be man. At the end of the day, you have to, get hit in the face sometimes and see how it feels like. Right?
Yeah. I mean, this might be a shocking thing for some of our listeners, but like if I have a son, I absolutely want him to do some martial arts where he's going to get hit in the face, and I want him to, go out and play with sticks, and I want him to get hurt a bit, and that's, not because of any cruelty in me, but that's just, for me, that's just part of the deal.
It's just a part of the game, I think, and there are safe ways to promote that. I mean, last weekend we had a self-defense course, women's self-defense course, mostly women, right? And I mean, the first self-defense course we did, I'm working with a guy, it's called Clint Wells, BJJ guy. So we kind of designed the self-defense like a no bullshit self-defense course for women. So they actually have to react, and they actually have to, go against two male. So they feel the weight on their body, and I bought something something called Spartan gear.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
helmets, you have armor and all that. Man, you should feel that when the women turn on the animal mode, it is painful. I mean, they actually can turn themselves to the angry animal, and that's
I think there's sorry.
And that was actually the main point of it. that you shouldn't freeze, right? Because I've seen many black belts that freezes after the hit in the face, but if you can't do karate, go crazy, and that's the good chance to come out of the situation. But if you freeze, you're done.
I think there's a couple of things here. Like, one is like a lot of self-defense training is very unrealistic. And, another is that many women might have a kind of feminist idea that they're as strong as men. That just isn't true. And it's quite different. Of course, there are extremes on either end of the spectrum, small men and stronger women, athletes and what have you. But like, I've done BJJ, like wrestling around men and women, and the strength and size and, to have like one or two guys trying to pin you down, that's just an experience most women just can't understand how threatening and big that size and weight difference is in terms of strength. And I think the other thing is not also realizing that what the police know. A policeman once talked to me. He said, "Look, Mark," "men fight for status. Women fight to defend their children and kill you." And he said, he said that a lot of the injuries they were seeing on a Saturday night in London were from actually women fighting, because there's a different mode they can go into. Like men, it's like, I want to dominate you. I want to be the boss. I want to show that I'm the big man. But he was saying that he was really scared of women fighting drunk on a Saturday night because they had another mode that they didn't even know they had, which was fucking psycho.
It is. And, we on the testing phase because we have a training phase and testing phase. So we actually, I put the, yoga blocks, how yoga blocks looks. And we actually put them on the ground as well, so it simulates the bricks and things you can throw. Yeah, man, it was chaos. It was.
And I've seen women take off high heels and go up people's heads with them, like stuff that they just didn't know they had that fierce capacity, which I guess comes from kind of defending children or whatever it is. And it kind of, and you needed that protective gear. I've done self-defense training with women and I've thought, oh, okay, I'm stronger than them. I'm martial arts trained. I don't really need any protective gear from this little girl. And, oh my God, did I need it?
After the first course I did, with only the boxing helmets and the taekwondo vests, man, that was next day I bought the 2 Spartan.
Never underestimate that, hey man.
No. It was really, really painful, but the bottom line is you don't freeze, right? That's so we taught really simple techniques. We taught actually hammer fists, and we taught the how to use the hand as a weapon without actually doing the fist, because when something goes, it's usually the wrist. So we actually make them to use the back fist and forearm and elbow and knees and everything they have, plus of course spitting and biting and all that. So it was painful. It was good. And the girls had really
thanks for taking one for the women. I think like it takes a guy's willing to get a shit beat out.
You know what? Clint didn't have a cap, right? Didn't have a system. So he couldn't walk afterwards. So it's not like they wanted to do that. It just
that's a great place for a woman to hit. It's like men don't have muscles on their eyes or testicles. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no defense there. No. Wow. Okay. So self-defense as a subject, I think this is an interesting one for me. It's like if you have girls, it's absolutely irresponsible not to teach them this. Certainly by their teenage years. And there's lots of good stuff out there, isn't there, in terms of like, model mugging and all the kind of different courses that are out there. BJJ, I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is particularly good because it's often in these lying down positions, right? So it's a heavy subject, but in terms of like rape.
We actually connected our backgrounds and made it to suit the realism needs. And my background is from, Kyokushinkai, which is a hitting art. Filipino or dirty boxing, which is a kind of angry snapping. I call it hedgehog principle, to actually using only your sharp edges to inflict pain, really, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, the idea of sort of biting and scratching may seem kind of anathema to people, but if that's what's between you and being raped or, being killed, then it's like, well, why not?
Do that, right? You do.
Yeah, right. There's you're ethically, in terms of proportional use of force. But I wonder what comes up for me as we talk about biting and scratching and swords and clubs is that the kind of more civilized society gets. Now, aside from the practical self-defense value of these things, right? It's also there's something about like needing to reconnect to the primitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I call it to ground, actually. If you go to the forest and touching the trees and just, running around, it is something primal in it, right? But it is a lot of the primal elements in fighting as well.
Yeah.
Because that's how you actually reveal yourself. That's how you, see who you truly are inside, right?
It's like you can have a nice philosophy, but when someone grabs you, it's a different matter, isn't it? I've always thought like wrestling, groundwork, weightlifting, pretty primitive, and sword work. There's a way in which these things, like being in nature, and this is something I know a lot of Scandinavians do. It's a very outdoorsy culture there, right? Like people are going outdoors in all kind of weathers. They're skiing, they're hiking, they're in the woods. It's a cliche, but Scandinavians do more of that shit than
yeah. And I'm the witness of that. I mean, I love doing that myself.
Yeah. And I wonder if that urge is about getting primitive again when, living in such a sort of safe, sophisticated, I know there's some crime in Oslo, but there's not much. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's something about needing to get primitive, living in such a refined, relatively wealthy culture.
I mean, the feeling closer to it. I mean, feeling closer to where we're coming from, right? I mean, we're not made of, we're not made to sit in front of a PC all day. And it was a big transition for me as well. I mean, me being 33, 34-year-old and just, getting my dream job and sitting in front of the computer, pushing enter and actually doing things I don't want to do. And I didn't see the meaning of it at all. I mean, how can I sit there and next 30 years and push the button? I couldn't do it. So I quit my job and I opened the gym. I had the balls enough to do that, and that's what it is, because it's not easy. The paycheck is much better sitting and pushing the enter button.
I get it. Yeah.
And you work less hours, and then you probably sit on the couch and do nothing. And I just couldn't do it, and that's where I kind of found out something has to change, and I did it.
Nice. So I don't really know where to go next with this. I feel like we've already hit some great subjects.
Yeah, it's a good start, Mark. It's a good start.
What are the kind of transformations you see people have? So obviously there's getting fit, and you've got for any of the ladies or gay men watching, I highly recommend looking online at Pawel's beautiful physique. But aside from the kind of beautiful physique that people could get, what kind of transformations do you see people have doing this work with you?
First and foremost, I have to say that the transformation is within, but is in a well-being. That means they don't have knee problems, they don't have shoulder problems, and then our the principal pyramid, the pyramid of what we do is first health. Then you have your results like numbers, and then you have aesthetics at the top. So the most important thing to make them healthy and whole. Yeah. And what I understand by healthy and whole. Well, to make it really quick, they becoming the healthier and better human beings. Better means they're good people. They really supportive and social animals.
So this is fascinating to me, because martial arts training and ancient Greek training was intimately connected with what we could call ethical or moral training. But that's something the average guy in the gym might not make any sense to the average person in the gym.
Well, there is not without reason. I actually made my gym private gym, so you have to go through me to actually enroll to it, because I'm choosing the people I'm working with, right? I don't take I don't take anybody from the street and I say come to us. Actually, if they're interested, they coming and they train with us. But first we have a long conversation about why you do that and what you need and what kind of human being you are, right?
Yeah.
And that's I'm in pretty and it's serious. I had a couple of guys I just couldn't work with.
Yeah,
because they just didn't fit, and they actually wanted to do that only for themselves.
Yeah. I always kind of say if someone's motivation is just themselves, it's kind of like, well, you're not serving anything bigger, so why should I serve you? Like, and
the more I work with it, the more people I actually attract that want to help others. That's why we called it academy and not a gym, right?
Yeah.
We have Art of Functional Movement Academy because we're actually creating people that can help others as well.
That's nice. And I think that service orientation is missing from, hey, I just want to look good, aesthetic orientation, or even like I want to be healthy, right? But healthy for what? Like for me, that service orientation behind any kind of work is, I don't think you can have transformative work without a service orientation, if I'm just going to be blunt about it.
Yeah, I think how can you help others if you're miserable yourself?
Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, that's the basis, right? You've got to get your own.
I mean, you have to be safe to make others safe. You have to be healthy to make others healthy. And well, it's of course a selling pitch there, because if you look good, you probably get more clients. But it's just a surface.
Yeah, and it does seem like the aesthetic part is what a lot of people are going for. And I think that's kind of sad because it might not even be healthy to be aesthetically.
Yeah, right. I mean, look at the the bodybuilding kind of environment. Do you think that people on the stage are healthy? I seriously doubt that.
Well, a lot of those guys die real young. Even if they're not on drugs, it's like they're just carrying around so much weight, and they're suffering from all kinds of health conditions because there's so much, the diet they're on, all the rest of it. They kind of might look what our society thinks of as good, but actually just be unwell a lot, let alone the moral sense, psychological. So psychologically, a lot of those people I've talked to have had deep problems akin to kind of eating disorders. Like super healthy people in the gym, and I talk to them, and as a psychologist I go, wow, that's like anorexia you've got there. That's a body dysmorphic kind of disorder.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying that I didn't struggle with my body before. I mean, I did. I was pretty overweight before. I was weighing 120 kilos as well. So both as a kid and as a young adult, the diets, the food and nutrition part of it was a big transition for me as well.
Yeah,
it went actually align itself with the spiritual awakening, because it has to be together. You have to start work on your shell, on your physical body, and then on the mental, emotional, and the spiritual. So, and the shell is food. It's food and movement. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going back to food a lot recently and really looking at that. We've had some people on the show who are kind of embodied eating experts and looking at tuning into the body and are you eating to cover an emotion? So something that looks physical like food is actually straight away hitting the emotional, and and also like, is this ethically sourced? Is this environmentally sustainable? Like, it's like all these things are so linked that we can't just separate out one piece.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of actually eating in a cycle as well. What do I understand by that? I eat to suit the when I'm usually fasting before every season, right? So to empty myself, to empty the cup. So I'm doing the fast. It's usually water or tea fast in 7 days, right? And let's say the winter is coming, and I'm now switching to winter foods, right? So before winter, I fast. I fast and I clean myself, and I switch to winter foods, which are usually high fat, low carb kind of foods. And then the spring is coming, and I do the same. I fast after the winter, and then I switch to fresh vegetables, fruits, right? So I go vegan a couple of months, and then I start, binding it the summer foods, which are kind of high protein and high fiber as well, right? So it has to, it has to be a cycle in it as well, and I put some of nutrition patterns into that cycle, and it works for me. But it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you or the other human being, right?
Yeah, I think this is where we're getting smarter. Is like individual differences, and people kind of get that. Different people need different embodied practice or different diets. But then there's also this seasonal, this cyclical. Like you can't just do one thing and keep doing it. Like I definitely notice in winter I want to eat like the kind of fatty, kind of meaty kind of stuff. And
yeah, I mean,
I was in Russia.
How we lived before, right? I mean, what is in winter if you don't have a freezer, right? It's only that.
Yeah, and
For
me, I just had to listen to that. I was in Russia. It was cold. It was dark. And I was just like, I need to eat some meat. and as a vegetarian, I was like guilty. And then I went, no, this is just what I need to do, And I noticed in the spring, like I do want to eat like salads and kind of lighter shit, And it's like not being guilty about that because one is that supposed to be the healthy one,
Yeah. But I think the disconnect, I was living on a chicken, broccoli, and rice in 3 years as well. I mean, it's not, I wasn't doing the wrong thing before, but I felt miserable. I felt it's just boring. So why not kind of enjoy things that nature gives us in certain periods? And it's the same with alcohol, really. I mean, I could no for alcohol. But sometimes the glass of wine, it just feels right, and I do that, right? I mean, why not? It is for us at the end of the day. It is for us human beings, so why not use that?
Yeah. Well, I have a different take on that as an alcoholic, but that's my particular challenge. That's an exceptional thing, yeah. So you call this Tengu? Like, as I understand it, the Tengus were kind of like tree spirits, or like in the forests of Japan, they like mythological kind of sword-bearing fucking sprites or some shit. What's a Tengu? Tell us what a Tengu is.
You can call it that. I mean, Tengu, it was my idea, like long way back in time, and it just stick to me. Actually, it is a forest demon. Actually, sometimes it's described as a man with a long nose and the wings, and me being a coach, I kind of like to picture myself with the wings that are actually going around the people so I can protect them. And I think Tengu was a kind of, maybe a bit scary one, but
and they would give secrets of the sword, wouldn't they, as well? It's like the samurai and shit.
All about knowledge, really, knowledge and protection, and that's what the main symbol is, really.
Okay.
And it looks pretty cool as well.
They're fun, huh? Yeah. So anything else you want to talk about the body? Anything you're passionate about? Anything you think, shit, I know something about this, I can pass this on to listeners?
Yeah, I mean, if any, the balance. If anything that is worth mentioning is a balance. I mean, we cannot just stick to one thing and expect that we're going to progress. The balance, it has to be in all spheres. And I strongly recommend that you pick up my book and go through all the spheres, because that was the base on, of course, my experiences. But I think I kind of enjoyed picturing the human being as a whole as well. Yeah. And it's some takeaways from the book as well.
I think
the book you can pick up on tengu.no website, and I can send it to you.
Yeah, send me all the links, and I can use Facebook send to those, and I'll put those on the thing for people.
No worries.
This idea of balance, I'm really getting into. For me, it's like I used to set myself like a training program, and it used to be like, okay, and it's good to pursue an art in depth and all that, but this week I've done Aikido, yoga, fire rhythms, and it's just like every evening I'm just really feeling into like, okay, what do I need to do? And, what's going to nourish me this evening? And it might be different because it's a dark November, like rather than leaving the house to go to a class, it might just be, I'm going to do a little bit on the living room floor this evening, keep it gentle because I'm tired, and really like trying to be authentic about that.
Yeah. I mean, people just forgot that, the first of all, foremost, I really sucked at the programs. I never stick to one. I was even angry on myself that why can't you just, be done with one and then start the other? And being the highly, intuitive person, right? I always, I knew, is this good for me or it's not good for me? Does it feel right or not doing it today? And but people are really often disconnected with their own kind of self.
Yeah, I've been trying to do the same thing with eating and moving, and I think you can only do that though once you've developed a certain discipline, or else if people do that too soon in their journey, there's an excuse to be lazy fucking asses, and it's like there's something like you have to be quite tuned in. And like, for people like us who I get are fairly kind of yang motivated, we're going to fucking do something whether we want to, it's kind of like for that personality, that makes sense. But for someone else who's maybe newer to it and they're kind of, they haven't yet developed that discipline, they're just tired from working a computer all day. I'm not sure if that's the best approach. So I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here a little bit.
If you're thinking about it like that, but people don't know AFM system. And in AFM, we just don't have a free days, right? We don't have a passive recovery days, and every day is a training day, really. But it can be like moving, it can be the walk in the park, it can be whatever. But you actually do things every day. You're not just lying around. So to adjust the stimuli to your mood or to your day, it's all right. But to just lie down and do nothing is. Well, it's not, right? Because it's not pushing you anyway. So I would rather, instead of lying down and have a bag of chips and a beer, I would rather go and move a half an hour or an hour. Great.
Okay, well, why don't we leave it there? Where do people find out more about you? What's your Instagram I mentioned and other things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're all free to link up with me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Flickr, whatever, you name it. And I push you the links so people can watch it. And of course, my website, tengu.no. There you can find the links to my book and my training programs and the crystal jewelry I design as well. So I'm doing the shaman things, So
let me spell those for people. So it's Tengu, Tengu. You put that into Instagram or Google, good stuff will come up. And his name is Pawel, Pawel Widuto. It might not be intuitive spelling for people, so I hope you don't mind. I just wanted to spell those out so people could find you.
Or House of Tengu on Facebook as well, or Pawel Widuto on Facebook. That's the. And then on Facebook, you have actually all the links that you need to go to the other websites as well.
Sir, dziękuję, tak. Thank you very much for joining us today.
It was really fun. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to get more. If you'd like to help us build the Embodied Tribe, leave a review on iTunes or share this on your social media. If you're interested in training globally, sign up to receive the newsletter at embodiedfacilitator.com. Until next time, welcome home to the body.